So, ladies, gentlemen, dear family, there will be plenty of time during lunch, so you can follow your networking during the lunch time. So now we are going to start the second session, the second part of the conference. In this part, we have asked different RTOs to share with us their point of view regarding the infrastructure, the technological infrastructures, and also to share with all of us how are these infrastructures used to serve or to help to achieve the objectives of the twin transition. And then later on, we will have also a small panel. So not to delay more the session, I would like now to start by introducing Miquel Rovira. Miquel Rovira is director of the sustainability area at EURECAT. He holds a PhD on chemistry and has more than 15 years of experience working in sustainable related projects. So, Miquel, welcome on board, and the floor is yours. You have the countdown here.
Joan? Okay. Thank you, Joan. Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are fine. It is a pleasure for me to open this session, and I would like to share to you how, from EURECAT, we envisage climate tech development, and one of our main priorities, how we can bring climate tech from early development to the commercial scale implementation. So I will give a general overview about this issue, and then I would like to show you some case studies we are developing at EURECAT, and then finally just some conclusions. Okay, so I hope you will find it interesting. First of all, when we talk about climate change and innovation, we are dealing about complexity. Usually, environmental challenges are complex, are interlinked, okay? They also touch economic and social issues, and climate change is not an exception. In fact, probably climate change is one of the issues the complex issues that humanity have ever faced, okay? So dealing with climate change means that we need to have like a systemic view, okay? We are dealing about something uncertain. We need a broad range of competence, and also an holistic approach is required. And sure, we need to go beyond a technocentric perspective. For example, when we deal with water reuse, we have technology to reclaim water, but we need to be sure that the users will be confident with the solution. This is an example of sociological aspects also are on the table. In fact, citizens, has been said before, citizens are at the center of the climate crisis. We are sure that RTOs will play a crucial role on climate tech development. In fact, we have the capability to develop technologies. Also, diffusion, we think, is very important, okay? And then another important point is that we have the connection, the link with companies. So we can help companies seeing new opportunities. Also, it has been demonstrated during the pandemic, we have the possibility, the capacity to operate under complex conditions, basically organizing flexible teams. And finally, I'm sure that RTOs, we are critical on trying to overcome the barriers and the valley of death that we find when we go through the innovation chain dealing with climate tech. So climate tech are multidisciplinary. They will allow us to reach climate resilience, and we can divide them in three main groups. For one side, we have all the technologies that mitigate climate change. Basically, they reduce greenhouse emissions. They will allow to achieve climate neutrality. Then we have all the technologies that in some way will help us to adapt to climate change. Remember that if even tomorrow we cut all the emissions, we already need to adapt to a new situation. So this is a big challenge. So we need to adapt to to the new climate, okay? This is climate adaptation. In some way, we have a kind of delay on research on climate adaptation compared to climate mitigation. And also, all the technologies and methodologies that help us to understand the climate are also considered climate tech. Here you may see the Lac de Barruda, the glacier of Barruda in the French Pyrenees. In the Pyrenees, there are still some glaciers, but they are melting. This is not far from here. So maybe, probably in several years, this small glacier will disappear. Climate change offers, we think, a good intersection, a good connection between environment and business. Okay, so now there is a very fast growth of investment in the climate tech, okay? Basically, because of the ESG strategies of the companies. Climate tech investment has rebounded from the mid-late 2020 in the complex of the pandemic. Okay, so now Europe is leading this investment revolution. Companies are also seeing that there is a lack of important risk, and the risk perception is increasing. So companies, they realize that they need to change, they need to transform the products and the process they use. And very important too, the customer awareness. People is asking for sustainable products, sustainable processes, and it changed business. But also we find some barriers when we want to invest on climate tech, okay? Usually, we find that these technologies are capital and time intensive. This is what we observe usually. Sometimes it's difficult to get to commercial scale. Remember that as any technology, we need to prototype, develop, and commercialize. There is a lot of experimentation usually behind these technologies. And the money usually prefers to go to, in some ways, more safe products, okay? So maybe climate tech is too much risky for investment. So we find risk-return ratio very high. We have long paybacks, okay? This is what we find when we analyze these technologies. And also a lack of track record and patient capital. So we think that a lot can be done in order to improve climate tech funding, and this is one of the conclusions. We think that the help from the public institutions in climate funding will help a lot in order to reduce the risk. Just some data, you may see here that climate tech startups have mobilized almost 5 times more money from the Paris Agreement in 2015. At EURECAT, we have seen that something has to be done different, and we have launched a very interesting initiative last year, which is the CRC, the Climate Resilience Center. The objective of this center is to accelerate the transformation we need in order to adapt and to mitigate climate change, and the secret is the alliance we have performed with companies, with NGOs, public administration, and universities. We want to work together because the problem is so important that we cannot solve alone. This is the initiative, and this initiative is located in Amposta in the Ebro Delta in the south of Catalonia, which is one of the regions of Europe more threatened for the climate change. Here, you will see that later, we have 2 problems. We have sea rise level, okay, and then we have a lack of sediments in the river. So it means that we have strong flooding periods in the Delta Ebro. The idea of the Climate Resilience Center is also go beyond Delta del Ebro, but this is in some way our zero zone. Recently, the United Nations Habitat has selected the Ebro Delta as a place to hold a pioneering program in climate change adaptation. We are sure we can contribute a lot to this. Now, I would like to show you some case studies. The first one is also in the Ebro Delta, okay? We have established a living lab. we think that the platform of a living lab can help a lot to co-create and to find solutions and go, as I said before, beyond a technocentric perspective. So in this case, we have established a living lab, and we are sure that we are contributing a lot to the industry in the Delta, but basically to the ecotourism and also to the agriculture sector. Okay, so this is, I think, a different way to approach climate change. And then what we want to do is that we want to replicate this initiative, the living lab. We want to establish more living labs and connect them together in order to, in some way, to accelerate the transformation we need to make. Here you may see the Ebro Delta before and after the glorious storm, okay? And here you may see several days. So you may see the problem. You may see the big flood that make big disturbance in the Ebro Delta. This is a satellite image from Copernicus. More examples. And this is a good example because in some way we are combining digital transition with the green transition. When we combine both things, nice things happen. And here we are developing climate adaptation package. And we want to implement this package around Europe in order to cover all the risks that affect Europe, okay? And basically we are using a dynamic information management system in order to approach in a multi-scale different adaptation strategies. The business impact will be, in the context of this project, basically in water, agriculture, fisheries, infrastructure, and health. We think that the solution will be ready for application in 2 years. One more example. The coast. The coast is a big problem when we deal with climate change. The coast is threatened. So, in this case, we are developing solutions, and from basic research, we want to establish large-scale restoration of coastal ecosystems using nature-based solution. I think that is also a good example how to have a final implementation of complex solutions. And we need to implement these solutions in the coast, where the public administration holds the responsibility. So again, the technocentric perspective is not enough to solve the problem. So we hope that next year we will start implementing the large-scale restoration, and probably, it's not sure, we are selecting the location we will restore this area in the Ebro Delta. One more example, also from basic research, if you study rice fields, you see that there is a lot of methane emissions from this agriculture. So we have seen that this is a very strong opportunity to, in some way, establish carbon credits that will help companies to compensate emissions. Usually, decarbonization is not enough. So usually, companies need something else. And we think that carbon offset, for example, in this case, in the rice fields, can be very useful in order to get the neutrality. So we are now in the process of verification and measurement of this situation, and we want to offer this solution next year to the companies. And we will link agriculture with probably industrial companies. We have just 2 more examples, very fast. Water is very important for us, and the connection with circular economy. Circular economy will reduce a lot the emissions, and we see wastewater as a source of new water, reclaimed water, energy and materials. And here we have this project, and we go to a full-scale implementation, okay? And we implement in the ecosystem, for example, in the petrochemical area in Tarragona, we establish a living lab, and we implement solutions in order to close the circles around water. This is an ultimate project. We are already implementing the solutions. And now, just to finish an example, we are still at the lab scale, but we are sure that we will reach also the industry. And in this case, we are developing a system at lab scale, at pilot plant scale, in order to obtain new chemical products, added value products from CO2 and sun. Okay, this is Sancochem project. And we are working, as I said, material that will grow in the future, and we will try to, in some way, to capture CO2, use solar energy in order to get these products that now we are obtaining from fossil fuels. And well, I'm just 10 minutes, just very brief conclusions. The first one, we are convinced that RTOs, we will play a very important role, as I said, on the climate change solutions we are looking for. We think that we can, for one side, help companies decreasing the risk, for example, the risk of adapting the value chains to climate change, but also, of course, the new opportunities, the new business opportunities we see in the area. More things. The speed we will adapt to climate change depend on the maturity of the solutions, okay? So we need to go fast, we need to accelerate the development of these technologies, and we need to cover all the supply chains. This is very important, okay? More important things from our point of view. There is an important need to give clear rules to companies. For example, in Europe, we know that we will be neutral at 2015, but probably we need some more roadmaps for companies, for some sectors, for example, concerning the reduction of emissions. Companies need clear instructions, so the companies will be able to find the solutions. Otherwise, the companies get lost. We are sure that RTOs can play a very important role because maybe we can connect industry, the needs of the industry, with the administration in the search of these solutions. And we are neutral. We want to be neutral from the climate perspective, but also we are technologically neutral. So we will play an important role on this. For example, we have been helping the European Commission in the establishment of the standards for water reuse. Oh, sorry, just a very interesting one. We need a very interesting one. We need to step up a very agile investment. Okay, public and private. This is important, Joan. Okay, sorry, and we need also go beyond projects, and we need to find funding for distinctive initiatives, like, for example, CRC. We need to work in a different way, and we think that CRC is one of these possibilities. And also avoid, again, the valley of death. And the last one is that in Europe, we will be neutral in 2050. Sometimes I think that we forget that in other parts of the world, there are very interesting initiatives, and also we need to establish more cooperation with other active regions in the world. And that's all. Thank you. Sorry, Joan, for the delay. ¿Alguna pregunta?
I think that it is very clear the passion that the RTOs put in all the systems. However, he forgets to mention the most important thing. All the smacks from Kellogg's produced to be eaten all over the world came from rice, which is grown in the deltas, in the Ebro Deltas River. So we have to do something, otherwise the smacks will disappear. Or, thank you, Miguel, for your question. Now I would like to introduce the next speaker. She is Krista Huyer. She is the science director of the TNO industry unit. She holds a PhD in physics, and she is responsible for the knowledge base of the unit, which supports Dutch high-tech industry. Krista, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. It's nice to see all of you together here, and to the people online, I'm happy that you're here this way, but you're missing a great city and a great town to be in. So today I wanted to share something, let's say more general than Mikael was just addressing about technology infrastructures. And I think the key things are already here on this first slide. I thought, should I run out of time, then at least I've given you my key messages. And I will elaborate on them a little bit, of course. But to me, the technology infrastructures are essential in facilitating the twin transition and fostering the strategic open autonomy that we in Europe are striving for. But there is a key distinction with research infrastructures, and that is that technology development and scale-up are essential for technology infrastructures and not a scientific research or a scientific mission or simply being research equipment. Then technology infrastructures, to my mind, are really vital to speed up the development and adaptation of new technologies. To some extent an open door, but I think it cannot be reiterated enough. And because in the end, usually when we operate these technology infrastructures, they will be public-private partnerships or collaborations or whatever you call them. And so it is important to keep emphasizing that these type of investments are important. So there's a picture there that I will elaborate on also a little bit. It's part of the booklet that was just produced, but this is the Solar Lab in Petten, the Netherlands. So let's go to the technology infrastructures. So what are they, to my mind? So my first attempt at a definition, because they're also very varied and diverse. Technology infrastructures test, demonstrate, and upskill new technologies for future use and for further use. So it's a co-creation of innovations. It's always public and private users that are collaborating on it, and they are very diverse in their implementation with a diverse user community. So in the EU, we are thinking of developing a European strategy for technology infrastructures because they are so essential for this twin transition. But to continue, if you look at the key features that we now are thinking about, they are the accessibility to SMEs, to industry, but also, of course, to RTOs. But they are primarily operating them. So they are operated primarily with an RTO-like mission. So that is to adapt technologies, to develop technologies, and to make sure that they can actually be implemented. They should be very relevant, often regionally relevant, because industry, but especially SMEs, tend to not necessarily want to travel all the way across the world to test new infrastructure. So it often is let's say, a logical consequence of a certain local ecosystem that you place a certain technology infrastructure in a place. I think there are exceptions, as always, when you make definitions, but I think when you look at most technology infrastructures that you see this back. And the other part that I think is very important and distinguishes technology infrastructures from research infrastructures is that we have a rapid commissioning or adaptation of such a technology infrastructure. Now, it may feel that if it takes you 2 years from idea to first operation, that is a long time, but with my background in research infrastructures, I can tell you it's immensely fast. That is also this key distinction, this technology development and scale-up instead of the scientific mission. If we were to take 10 or 15 years to implement a technology infrastructure for industry, we're way too late. So we need to be fast, agile, and quick. So, as I said, I think they are crucial for the twin transition, because my conviction is that twin transitions will need to be enabled by new technology. It's part of the deal. And adaptation of these new technologies is only possible when companies actually make the products that support this. So in the end, in these public-private partnerships, these technologies can be brought from the academic findings to the high TRL levels. And that's where the RTOs play the crucial role. And we cannot rely only on societal measures and academic developments and good intentions. So in the end, we do need to create these solutions. And we need to change the way we use our limited supply of material resources. We need to power that by green energy, and this will help us curb the effects of climate change. So to my mind, it is true that technology infrastructures are one of the vital elements to speed up the development and adaptation of new technologies. So in this EARTO publication, where there were case studies done on technology infrastructures, you see 9 great examples of technology infrastructures with various applications domain, an emphasis on the key enabling technologies, with various levels also of investment. Just look at it, it's ranging really from a few million to hundreds of millions of euros. But I still think that one of the things that is another distinction with the research infrastructures, that even in this booklet, I do not find many examples where you feel this goes beyond what a single country or a single region can actually carry. So I think the type of collaboration that we need with technology infrastructures is also different from research infrastructures, where sometimes the investment is so large. Currently, the Einstein telescope is under debate. The capital investment is 2 billion euros. So that's the type of investment that is so large that you can only do that jointly. The investment itself and the operation. With technology, the infrastructures, it's slightly different, but still then you need to check the ecosystem, make sure that it fits, and not necessarily duplicate it everywhere in Europe. So we might collaborate better and then have in joint means still collaborate a lot. So these, as also said, these are funded from various resources, and the business model is not completely relying on public funding. So you also need this private investment and commitment, and that also defines to some extent the relevance. So to my mind, they should be public-private partnerships. Now I have an example from, this is also in the booklet, there's not 8 others, but this is one, of course, from TNO. In Pet in the Netherlands, we have a solar photovoltaic development lab. We have had in 2020 55 business-to-business projects. The capital investment was 23 million euros, which is a lot of money, but still on the scale of that Einstein telescope, relatively modest. And an operational cost of 1.4 million euros. So we managed this way to open up a structure that a smaller company cannot have for themselves, but in this way they can actually fasten up and speed up their development and making sure that the consumers can buy these products. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention with a picture of the Netherlands, another delta region that will profit from coastal protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you. Thank you, Krista. Thank you. You adjust very well your speech to your time allocated, so we have time for one question from the audience. If you have a mic, please. The man. Please say your name and the organization you're coming from.
Thank you for the nice presentation. Maybe a little bit provocative, but you mentioned the Einstein telescope. And for me, this is typical a research infrastructure. And what with the technology infrastructures, it's not a black and white story, but I think we mean pilots and demos to bring technologies to companies, to our society. Could you comment on this?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Einstein telescope is absolutely a research infrastructure with a scientific mission that's completely apart. I think to take it up for, let's say, the research infrastructures, what usually happens is that they push technology beyond the current state of affairs. So as a spin-off of that type of investment, you may gain some unknown economic benefit and you develop new technologies that are great. To me, I'm trying to very much distinguish technology infrastructures from research infrastructures, because I'd rather not have the feeling that what you could do if you're a policymaker is say, oh, we have research infrastructures, let's give them, just like we do with universities, we give them the additional mission of also working at other TRL levels and providing access to companies and all that stuff. And I think that is, A, diluting the mission of the research infrastructure, and B, not very profitable because it doesn't fit. So to me, it was a way, and maybe I did it in a bit unfortunate way, to distinguish technology infrastructures from research infrastructures. We can learn a lot from the ESRI projects and the ESRI mechanisms, but we also have to take care, and this is why I say, look, it's not often in more nations, it's adapted, it's to a local ecosystem, and we need them with good access in public-private partnerships in order to actually facilitate them. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, and thank you for the nice and good, excellent answer. Thank you, Krista. Now I will ask Mr. Harry Hanselmann, he's the CTO at CSEM, the Swiss RTO. He holds a PhD on physics. He joined the CSEM, to build up its nanotech and life science division. So, Harry, let's hear you.
Well, thank you very much, Juan. 15 minutes, right, my time? Very patient. Thank you very much. Thank you also for having me here. As a representative from Switzerland, you may know Switzerland is that small country that is centrally located in Europe, but yet currently so far away from the European research program. I guess that was the reason why I was invited here to talk. So thank you very much for that opportunity. So you see here the slogan we have, technologies that make the difference. It's quickly adapted to the topic of today. I wanted to give make a small change and give a typical presentation. Then Muriel said, "Nana, you're not going to do that." So I had to put some time into it for preparation. And I'm going to present CSEM, the Swiss Center for Electronics and Microtechnology. It's a French acronym. We are in the western part of Switzerland. It's a typical RTO. Almost typical RTO. I will not go through the numbers, not through the details, because that's a bit of boring. Just as one indication, we are about 550 to 600 collaborators with 100 million euros last year's budget. I would rather concentrate on the mission statement that reads, CSEM develop and transfers world-class, of course world-class, microtechnologies to the industrial sector. To reinforce its competitive advantage through innovation. So you will see when you put this up and compare it to the definition we saw earlier today and also yesterday in the OECD and EARTO analysis, not only that the OECD definition is much longer and more verbose, but it also includes the societal and policy impacts, and we just don't have that, right? In our mission is very clear. It's uniquely focused on industrial transfer, right? So we have no societal impact in our mission statement, and you can imagine how much fun I had and how much surprise I was displaying yesterday at the discussion on the role of RTOs as an effective ecosystem intermediary that is very far away from our mission. We don't do that, and it's hard to imagine for me currently how we will do that in the near future. But still, we are very active in technologies for green and digital transition because our customers need that. And in the end of the day, you will see there's not much of a difference in our activities, but our motivation to get there is much different. So also our business model is a public-private partnership. We do basically two things. We, develop technologies, and there we strongly collaborate with universities and also other RTOs. Universities, we have the luxury in Switzerland that we have an ETH in Zurich, which ranks among the 10 best universities worldwide. And their sister institution, if you wish, the EPFL in Lausanne, which is also among the top 20 or 30. And they do world-class research, so we don't do world-class research. We don't even aim and pretend to do that, but we collaborate strongly with these universities. And we also work together with RTOs. We have co-founded some 15, 17 years ago what we call the Heterogeneous Technology Alliance, the HTA, and their CRLT is partner, VTT is partner, and the Fraunhofer IZM is a partner. The idea there is to make our technology basis, our offering to the industrial sector, larger by cooperating and combining technologies. And then, of course, like everybody, we work together with the private sector for transfer. So we have these two activities. Now, of course, the private sector feeds back. This is what I was just mentioning. And by the need that we see every day, and increasingly in digital technologies, and now picking up also in green technologies, that forces us to be active in developing technologies in the digital and increasingly also in the green area. Now, this is currently the research program. This is, I'm not going to go into detail, just the three priorities, how we currently describe it. The first one is very important, in particular for Switzerland, which has a rather high percentage of its economy is in the manufacturing sector. And Switzerland, as many other Western countries, but even in comparison to most of Western European countries, is a very high salary, high cost of living country. So if you want to support the economy and the export potential of economy, we have to invest in innovation for this industrial sector. So it's not only the DNA of CSEM in the fine mechanics and precision manufacturing, it is also this need of the industrial sector to support manufacturing. We are convinced that when manufacturing goes away, a couple of years later, we will lose our competences in developing technologies for manufacturing. I think the R&D is not sustainable if we don't keep the manufacturing facilities in the country, or close to us at least. And the other two priorities, digital technologies and sustainable energy, I did not make this up. This fits perfectly to the topic of today's discussion. As I said, digital technologies, we do this since many, many years, though this transition is not coming. It is already on us since many, many years, and increasingly so. Also the green, where we mostly do currently photovoltaics, storage, grid management, and these things. You will not see hydrogen. In what I explained, this is too far out. This is too low TRL, technology readiness level. This is still for us a little bit too much in the research side, and not yet demanded by industry. So some examples, because after all, we are all technology organizations. Different types of technology transfer. This describes the use of our infrastructure in photovoltaic panels. Not only try we to increase the efficiency of these panels and use materials that can be recycled and are compatible with the circular economy, but we also aim at better integrating them, make them more usable for our customers, in particular also for protected buildings, where it's not necessarily the best option to put an ugly black and gray solar panel on your rooftop. So we make them colored, we integrate them well, and then we work together with authorities for these buildings, but transfer the technologies to companies who then offer these services. The second example I like very much, on the top you see a solar smartwatch made in Switzerland. So this combines a little bit both renewable energies on the one hand side and the digital technology that is a perfectly secured, privacy-respecting operating system that is not iOS or Android, but it is a Swiss-made operating system in a Swiss watch. And there we recently transferred the whole development team to the pilot line production of that. Technology transfer through people is one of the best ways to transfer technologies, and this is what happened here. On the bottom you see a fun project, but still industrial demand if you wish. This is the equipment with PV panels of the first solar plane that is able to fly to the stratosphere. It's called Solar Stratos, some adventure project, but gives high visibility, which of course we like also. An example of combining digital and green energies, this is grid management, where we work with utilities, so half public, half private energy providers. And the last example in digital health, a wristband that measures your blood pressure 24/7, won an EARTO recognition 2 years ago and is a very successful startup. So you see the different types of technology transfer. I think that is not very different to what other RTOs do. To conclude, I'm convinced that RTOs are indispensable for making the digital and the green transition possible. I'm not sure whether it necessitates the role of an intermediary of different actors. At least for CSEM, I don't see this in the near future. But RTOs develop robust technologies and nobody else does, right? And I think to make this transition happen, we need these robust technologies, and RTOs are the only ones who do that, or definitely the ones who do that best. And the second point, even with RTOs like ours, which is a little bit the special Swiss case again, which are uniquely oriented towards industry transfer, we still are very active, like many others of you, to change the mission. I think with strong actors in science, like in Switzerland with the ETH, EPFL, other research institutes, may be difficult to explain, but I don't think that changing the mission would be a necessary step for us to be part of that transition. With that, I'm at the end. I hope I have a minute or two for Q&A, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry, for the presentation. In this case, if you don't mind, I will take the chance to make the question, because you point one important and relevant thing. You mentioned the case of manufacturing in Switzerland. I think, and I am afraid that this is also the situation that we have here in Spain, and I'm pretty sure that it is a European challenge to be overcome. Could you elaborate a little bit more how this manufacturing technology infrastructure can help to retain, can help to make this twin transition to the European manufacturing industries, please?
Okay, I can give two examples. So Switzerland is quite strong in machines, right? Machines for tooling, machines for production. And in order to advance their production capabilities, be it with digital technologies like Industry 4.0, systems, environments, or just working on the precision on certain processes, that is very helpful. That creates innovation in this industry. And the other one comes maybe from photovoltaic. I did not mention that. We work strategically with a company in Switzerland, that's Meyer Burger, who is the company who in Germany set up last year a production site on photovoltaic panels in the attempt to, with the label of Made in Europe, bring PV production back to Europe and out of the hands of the Chinese to soften a little bit the dependence that we have from PV modules made in China. Just as two examples.
Thank you. Thank you. Two examples are better than large theories. So thank you very much, Harry, for your presentation and reflections and conclusions. And now we will move to the next speaker. Now we will have Mr. Jérôme Samson. He is investment manager at the European Investment Fund. So now I guess that we will talk about investment money and this type of things that we have been not tackling before. He represents the EIF on different advisory boards of a diversified portfolios of funds, most of them which operate in the fields of life science, climate, and environmental impact. So, Jérôme, we are going to hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm very, very happy to be presenting to you what I'm doing on other kind of instruments. I will be talking about financial instruments, although I have a kind of academic background and I worked with scientific instruments in the past. I'm very happy to be here, but I'm very unhappy to present this slide that has worsened since the last time I presented it last year in other setups. It was with a 1.1 degree markup on over the kind of pre-industrial age, and I think the kind of different scenarios are very, very frightening. So I think we all need to progress technologies to mitigate climate change, and I will focus mostly on that today, leaving the digital transition to others. So I'm from the European Investment Fund, and I will be talking to you about how we are helping at EIF the RTOs and other players on the innovation and discovery side to transition and to succeed in the green transition. You can see on these slides different examples that I've just picked randomly from different applications of research. And what you all know is that transitioning research to real-life applications like we can see here, it's taking decades in many cases, but it also takes a lot of money. And I will be talking about how European Commission and many other of our mandators are contributing to that. It requires a very long-term vision. It requires a lot of support. And honestly, the objectives that we are pursuing, we cannot fail on them. We talk about digital sovereignty, but we talk about climate change mitigation. But so, and it takes a lot of, in that part, the role of Europe on the global scene is really important, and it will, it really starts with RTOs and also with startups. So, and I think today we have already seen a different number of challenges and technology challenges that we want to see to tackle mostly the energy transitions that we need to action. I will not detail them, but you know them. And what we are expecting is to see more and more of these technologies being promoted by RTOs and wanting them to reach the market. How we are going to do that. And I will just mention a few slides about EIF. We are a European institution. We are a subsidiary of the European Investment Bank, which is our main shareholder, and also of the European Commission, our second largest shareholder. We have a quite strong asset base, but we are investing also mostly from European Investment Bank assets and from Commission mandates that you know very well. In the past, Horizon 2020, that was applicable even to Switzerland. And also now with InvestEU that I will discuss briefly in the last part. So our objectives and our products, our instruments, our financial instruments are there to help the market and help SMEs throughout their journey from the very beginning and from a spin-off from a research organization in many cases up to their growth and so on. So we have different tools to do that. I will be talking mostly about what I've been doing most of my time since I joined EIF 5 years ago, which is support to technology transfer funds. And you can see on this slide that it's, and this is the stock of our investments so far. We have invested over 1 billion euro in technology transfer funds. So far, that is a significant part. It's not the majority, but it's still a significant part of the roughly 30 or 25 billion that we have put on the market for venture capital that is in turn supporting startups. So a few words about why I think technology transfer funds are necessary. So you all know that the journey of an innovation starts with a lab and with any research in an RTO, in a university, in the garage of a founder, and it takes a lot of time, lots of years to bring this innovation to the market, real-life applications. And there's a lot of funding that comes for the R&D side that comes in the form of public grants and also in the industry in the form of their own investment in R&D. But for, I think, the most basic and most disruptive research, it comes mostly from public sources. And then to make these technologies, and we were discussing this morning earlier about the valley of death, and there's this critical element of, what can we do with a project that is, working on a lab bench, but where the application on the market is really far, and how to convince investors to put money on that. So at EIF, we have been funding technology transfer funds in a significant manner so far, and we want to continue that to remove the kind of risk on this project not bridging the valley of death. And later on, this project would be supported by more private-oriented and returns-oriented funding. There are different tools, and I want to comment on them. I think one figure that I like to show also is the amount of money that is invested by European taxpayers. So over 90 billion euro per year are spent on public research in Europe, one way or another. And I think, what you can also see on this slide is that the level of funding for technology transfer funds that would help taking research out of the labs and bringing them to the first stage where they can be ready for investment, it's really minimal. You could think about a drop of technology transfer, And if we want to achieve the objective, the strategic objective of the EU that were in the past, said as, being strong in innovation and playing an important role. But I think today, what we want to achieve is our leadership on the green and the digital transition. So we need to invest more on that and to be more efficient on that. Our way of working with technology transfer is to support funds that have a specific setup. We try to see that these three pillars are very important, a setup that is really robust and that takes very good investment decisions, and investing in sectors where there's a very strong need, and the climate crisis and climate tech is a very strong sector that is in need of funding, and also partnership with very first-class and world-class innovation. So I think we are achieving that. But I think if I think about the sectors where we want to focus our efforts in the future, again, you will see these keywords. Here, I think I'm very happy to be presenting this slide. It's growing every year with new additions. You can recognize as a list of our key partners for in this technology transfer fund, many of members of EARTO and many also very high-profile research organizations. What we are trying to do is to cover Europe as a kind of wall, and I am very proud to see that we have added a fund in Czech Republic recently with a research organization there, very active. I can also mention that we are a very large investor in most of the funds where we are, most frequently, in a very strong partnership with research organization. For instance, as a sub-fund that we have in Finland with VTT, we are almost equal shareholders of the fund with a very tiny support from private investors. And in the future, what we expect is that many of these funds would have performed very well thanks to the quality of the innovations they are investing on, that would generate very strong returns that would attract private investors and help the mass grow, and the ratio of EIF being 45% investor in this fund in average, lower and lower with private investors coming in. So, and what we are seeing also is that most of the funds that we have backed in the past, they are coming back with new generations, new projects, and for instance, Voima, again, with VTT, there are new funds that they are cooking up. Thanks to discussions that we had together, they will focus more and more on climate technologies for part of their investment strategy, and also on making sure that their investments are really impactful and that are not just investment for the money or for just putting a new product on the market. So the next steps, I will just briefly mention InvestEU. So InvestEU is a new vehicle from the European Commission. It's a 26 billion euro vehicle that is aiming at mobilizing with private support a very large amount. And you can see that among the focus items, green transition, digital transition are very high on the agenda. And EIF will play a very significant role in channeling this 26 billion to the market, with 11 billion distributed by EIF over the next 6 years. And apart of our strategy to deploy that, a very strong part will come to climate technologies and environmental solutions. So be ready, or come to us with proposals, just highlights of the different items that we see under climate and environment. It's just a normal usual suspects, but we are working very with profound motivation to help that. I will just jump on this slide just to say that we have also negotiated terms with the Commission to be able to have a kind of a specific window for tech transfer where we'll have at least 20 transactions out of the 11 billion. So a significant part of our activity will be ring-fence for technology transfer, and we have also relaxed terms where we can represent in emerging sectors or segments where private money will be difficult to attract. We can represent up to 75% of the fund commitment. And these funds, they are in partnership with research organizations. So if you want to find out more about that, I invite you to reach out either through our website or to my colleague Minerva, who is directly in charge of InvestEU setup. And personally, I would be very happy to continue the discussion and talking to you about new projects of how to transfer technology more efficiently. Thank you very much for your attention.
Is there any quick question to Jérôme? Well, then, if not, we can ask you during the lunchtime for sure. Thank you, Jérôme, for being here with us. Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce two of the speakers that are going to participate in the panel. So first of all, I'm glad to ask Marta González from CENER to join us. Marta is the CTO of the CENER Offshore Wind Department. She holds a civil engineer degree, and he has more than 17 years of experience nowadays working in the development of offshore wind farms and also floating offshore wind solutions. So thank you, Marta, for being here. And I also ask Professor Piotr Dardzinski, the CEO of the Okashevic Alliance or network of Polish research institutes. He is Doctor of Humanities, and he has a degree by ES Business School of Barcelona, and he has a lot of experience also in managing different research institutes. 26. We will talk a little bit about that later. So just to start, I will start first of all with Marta. I want you to tell us and to explain us what is CENER doing. CENER is a large company, worldwide operating, so you have a very good reputation. And I want you to share with us which is, what are you doing in terms of the twin transition? Which is your contribution to this?
Okay. In CENER, we are working in different renewable energies. Particularly, I am working in the offshore wind department, and we are now developing different projects in Spain for this kind of technology. We are really focused in the development of floating solutions. Okay.
Yes, you can use these slides that you shared it if you want. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, CENER is an engineering and technologies group. It has more than 2,400 workers. We in CENER, we are working in the renewable investment. We have promoted different renewable projects, renewable energy and waste to energy projects. Now we are collaborating with the enterprise Blue Float in the development of different offshore wind farms in Spain. One of these projects, here you can see, is the project called Parc Tramuntana. It's an offshore wind farm of around 500 megawatts. It is located in the Bay of Rodes. It's in the north of Catalonia, in the province of Girona. This offshore wind farm is located at a depth between 130 and 200 meters. It means that fixed offshore wind farm is not possible, and we have to go through a floating solution. Floating solution is a technology that has been developed during the last 10 years. There are already in the world 3 offshore wind farms already operating, but all of them are in the Atlantic side. This project in the Mediterranean Sea, as you can see, is located around 14 kilometers of the Cape of Creus and 24 kilometers from the Bay of Ross. And an important issue is that in this project, we had been collaborating from the early start of the project with EURECAT and EREC for the introduction of a research and development platform. You can see in the map, in orange, we have 3 positions for the testing of different prototypes, 2 of them for the testing of floating wind solutions and another one for other marine energies. So here, I don't know if you know the technology, but here we can see what is floating solution. In this case, as we are in a depth where we cannot use the fixed solution, that it is what has been used in the North Sea, we have to go through a floating solution. It's like a vessel, a specific platform that with a mooring system, they are anchored to the seabed. This project we are using the last technology of turbines. We are speaking about 15 megawatts turbines. It is around 261 meters from the sea line. Here, some data of the projects, but in parallel, we have also developed another project. So next. Okay. We have been working the 2 last years. We have been we have had a dialogue with the main stakeholders, and we have decided that it is a good solution to start by a prototype project. This will be the project that is called TramLab. It is not the 500 megawatts, it's a 50 megawatts project. In this case, it will be the first Mediterranean research and development platform for the development of renewable technologies, marine technologies, but more focused in the offshore wind. In this case, as you can see, we will have 3 fixed floating solutions. It's what we call the pre-commercial project, and it will be focused in the analysis of the environmental impact. We will have three turbines that will be around 25 or 30 years, and it will contribute to improve the knowledge that we have of the particularities of the floating solution in the Mediterranean Sea. As I said, it is true that we have experience related to the offshore wind, but it is in the North Sea, and there are quite a lot of experience that it is not the same. So the main issue of this platform is to improve the knowledge to take into account particularities of the Mediterranean Sea. Also, another issue, an important issue, is that we will contribute the knowledge generation and learning linked to RTO University. We have been working together. I think it's an important issue. And all the research lines that we are proposing for this kind of project have been defined in collaboration. And here we can see the main research lines that we think that are important and that make critical to make this kind of project. As I said, is validation of environmental impact. It is important to make real this kind of project. It will allow us to improve and faster the permitting process, the environmental permitting process. Also, the idea is to apply or to develop different instruments for the operation and maintenance, the development of ROV and other technologies. Also, it will be the first climate change observatory in the Mediterranean Sea, in the sea. And also, we are also collaborating with these RTOs and universities for the proposal of different training and specialization for workers relate to the offshore wind operation and maintenance. This is something that also will be new. And last of all, of course, the digitalization data collection that will be introduced in order to, as I say, improve the operation and maintenance, and all relate that we have to reduce the cost of the technology to make it more competitive and to go through commercial projects.
Okay. Very interesting, Marta. Thank you. I think that this is a nice example of what collaboration means in terms of developing a technological infrastructure. Thank you very much for this kind of introduction. Now, Pietro, you represent 26 Okay, you represent 26 research institutes, and we would like to know how you internally prepare yourself for this twin transition, as well as how do you plan to help the industries in your country.
Okay, I have the presentation too, but it doesn't work.
It will appear immediately, I'm sure.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation to this panel. We are very proud to be a part of the EARTO. We are quite new member because the Okashevic Research Network is a new program. It's a new organization, so we are 3 years old. We started in 2019. And I would like to say a few words about the Okashevic Research Network because I think that Okashevic itself, it's a transition institution. So we are, I think, a good example of the social innovation and the system of innovation too. I hope so. So when we are talking about the innovation, we started always with the money. So there is the good news that we have in Poland in the last 5 years increase of spending of R&D products. This is of 40%, and this is good news not only for the Polish RTOs. This is the good news for the international RTOs too, because the companies are looking for the partners to develop the new technologies, not only in Poland. And the good news is that this increase is created not by the public money, but in 60% is created by the Polish private investment. So it is something surprising for us too. So how it works? Maybe it could be an effect of the strategy implemented by the Polish government. This government started with the tax reform. So in 2016, we made the big tax reform. And now if you spend the money for R&D projects, you pay less money or you can't pay less taxes or you can't pay taxes at all. So it's a very easy tax relief system. And the companies use this very often, and we have lots of companies which started with the R&D projects and with these reliefs because they have the money. If you have the money from the company point of view, you need people to do the R&D projects. We don't have a lot of SMEs companies which have the experience with R&D projects, so they need the people. So government started in 2018 with the program of industrial PhDs. So what does it mean? It means that somebody who works at company can do the PhD study at the same time. And in this program, the government support, there is some financial support which goes to the company to hire the new people. And it goes to the university to prepare the special program to these people. And of course, the research agenda have to be agreed between the company and the university. But the owner of the IP from this research is the company. It's again a very easy and very comfortable program to the company, to the university, and to the people, to the young, especially to the young people too. And if you have the money, if you have the people, you have to scale your activities. And so you need the big organization which can help you. And this is the third part of the strategy which the Polish government developed in the last years. So we created in 2019 Okashevic Research Network, but we worked with this program since 6 years. Together with VTT, Antti Vasari, thank you very much once again. We have the program with the European Commission, and VTT was the advisor in this project, and it was very, very helpful for us to have you in this project. And what is the Okashevic? It's a really big organization. We started with the 38 institutes. Now we have 26 institutes. Because on the other side, we have the biggest institute, which has and has more than 1,200 people, and the smallest one it was 15 people. So we have to connect to rebuild the structure of the institutes, and now we have the 26 institutes. We have 7,000 employees, and 4,500 of them, they are researchers and engineers. And we are located around Poland, so we try to be next to our clients, our companies, and we have a lot of institutes, but our research we organized in 4 research groups. Maybe the next slide will be more interesting for you, because you can see not only our research group, but the topics of the research in this group. So the biggest group, this is sustainable economy and energy. The second one is the digital transformation. And this is our impact on green and transition and digital transformation. The biggest number of our projects are in sustainable economy and energy. We had in 2021 1,500 projects, and 68% of them, they were from this research group. And the second one, the digital transformation, we had around 10%, so we want to invest in the digital transformation in the next year to be more active in this area too. And what is the innovation, the social innovation, the system innovation? So we developed the Okashevic challenges, so wyzwania Okashevicia. This is the system which works like one window for, or like one contact point for this more than 4,000 researchers. So when the company is looking for somebody who can help them to develop the technology, they can go to one point, to the center of the Okashevic, I am president of the Okashevic, or to our institutes. And they say what they need, because we try to prepare our offer to fulfill the needs of our partners, especially enterprises. And in 50 days, we propose the different teams from the different institutes, but in the consortia, not a single from one institute, one teams, but we build the consortia inside the Okashevic Research Network, and we try to build this consortia out the Okashevic Research Network. So we are the intermediator to the universities too. So if we don't have the mobility, the possibility to lose the problem, we are looking outside the Okashevic, for example, at the university to find the people who can help this company. And in the last 2 years, because we started with this program, with this system in November 2019, we have from the companies, as you see, 1,420 challenges, and this is the data from last week. And we have the initiatives from more than 600 companies. And the good news is that about 25% of these contacts, the initiatives, we can finish with the contracts. So we can earn the money, we can develop the new technologies. It is very easy, it's for free. We can prepare the team people, preliminary schedule, the budget of the technology is very, very, very interested for the companies from Poland, and not only from Poland. We work with the big Polish public and private companies, and we work with SMEs from Poland too. And this is the strategy of Okashevic challenge system. This is the pull strategy. So we follow up the company which have the needs, but we have the push strategy too. So we have the mandate from our ministries, so the Ministry of Development and Ministry of Science, which they say us what is important from the strategic economic point of view, and which of technologies we have to develop. And as you see, we have a lot of programs connected with the Green Deal. And this is the strategy when we develop the technology, and then we push the company to use this technology.
Excellent.
And because after the 3 years, we are very ready to be more active in the international cooperation, I would like to invite you to our events. It's the 9th of June in this year. this is a very, very good opportunity to build the consortia to Horizon Europe, because we want to prepare the 16 matchmaking sessions that are connected with the calls from the Horizon Europe. So if you need more information about this, you can ask me or my colleagues. They are sitting here. We are a big representation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Pietro. Thank you. Let's now make some shared questions. We have one large industry, we have one large RTO. Marta, being a large industry, operating all over the world, using high tech, I think that you even develop high tech infrastructures. You contribute in the manufacturing of the infrastructures and so on. So we can say that, we used to say that knowledge has no barriers. However, technology infrastructures have barriers, especially outside Europe, right? So, according to your experience as a high-tech infrastructure developer, which suggestions or what needs to be happening in Europe in order that these infrastructures can be used in a more open way?
Okay, I think that based on our experience, I think the most important thing is that this kind of technologies infrastructure must be aligned with the market. What I mean, I think that the development of this kind of project shall be near to the companies, that they know the needs of the market. I say that because I think in general, but in the offshore wind sector is something that we have seen. The technology, the evolution of the technology is really quickly. What I mean, for example, we are now finalizing project with 6 megawatts turbine. We are designing now with 15 megawatts. In 2040, we are thinking that we will be in 25. So what I mean, this rapid evolution, we need a greater capacity in the design and the permitting of this kind of project, because we need quite a long time to make real this project. In the offshore wind, we need between 4 and 6 years to develop a technologies infrastructure. It's not so quickly as it happened in other technologies. So we have to have a view of what is going to happen in 10, 15 years, because if not, when these technology infrastructures become to be operative, they have already high limitations, and so we have to construct new technology infrastructure, and it has happened already in some countries. So I think it's something that we have to improve, to be near to the market, to speed up the process of the permitting for this kind of projects, because if we need between 6 and 10 years to make it real, I think that we will not be able to the opportunity that we have now, not to improve the offshore wind farm. Now, in 10 years, we will be in the commercial phase. So if Europe is not so quickly to prepare this infrastructure in the following years, I think that we will lose the opportunity.
Yeah, it is very clear that the state of the art is advancing quite quickly, that it is almost impossible to have all the tech infrastructures updated. What is the situation in your case? How do you see it? How do you feel, or how do you experience this from Poland?
In the infrastructure problem, we have, I think, the same problems around the Europe in RTOs. Especially in Okashevic, we have the problems with our infrastructure is a little bit old. So we have, because we are a new organization, but our institutes has had a long history. So our infrastructure comes from 70s or 80s. And we try to invest now to build a new infrastructure. And we try to do this, and it's very complicated because we want to do this not the investment per institutes, but the common investment from the different institutes. This is the first problem. And the second, we want to share this infrastructure, these laboratories, with the companies. So we have the public-private investment. And we are, I think, the first institutions, not only the science institutions in Poland, which try to do this. We are exactly we will start it in this year in Warsaw, but we organized our research infrastructure so that we built a big database, so we know exactly where which infrastructure and the laboratory is, and this data we open for the companies too, and so they can search online where the laboratories are. But I have to say that it doesn't work very well, because there is a problem how use these laboratories together with the company, and this is the problem. Which is much more. It's not a problem of the institutions. It's a problem of mindset that the institutes are thinking that this infrastructure. This is our infrastructure, and we have to use this to our projects. So they are not so open to open this infrastructure to the companies.
Very interesting, very interesting. Let's take the chance to look a little bit ahead. Looking to the future, from your point, for instance, now to change the road. So Piotr, what do you see as a forecast to take into account for the coming years from Okashevic?
In Okashevic, we love changes. This is the change and challenge. This is the two words that we love. But after the epidemics time and now after the war time, I will say that we need a stabilization too, because the world around us changed so quickly that now I think in the next few years we will be more oriented not only on the Green Deal, which was our topic, most important topic last 3 years, but we will be more oriented to the defense and security technologies too. So we have to rethink our strategy in a dual-use technology, because we have a war by our borders, so it changed the situation in not only in Poland. It's changed not only the political situation, it's changed the situation in the Polish science and in the Polish companies too. So we increase now the cooperation with the Polish biggest companies. We have around 150 Polish companies which are active in the defense and security products, and we prepare the new programs, which wasn't in my presentation, because they are preparing which we want to do with them. But still the energy challenge, energy problem, the new sources of the energy storage, that will be still the topics which are very interesting for us.
Okay, what about you? What about Csem? How do you see the future in terms of innovation, technologies, trends in research and so on? I know that you have mentioned it, that any certain unpredicted change may have important impact in your infrastructures, but in your internal exercise, how do you see, which conclusion do you have now in terms of future?
Related to the offshore wind, what we think, based in our experience in this development that we are carrying out in Spain, for example, in this case, what we think is that we are maybe not technically, but maybe we are not prepared at this moment for the development of the commercial offshore wind farm. So this is one of the reasons why we are proposing this kind of solution. We think that we have the experience. We think that Spain is prepared for the commercial offshore wind farms developments, but we have to help to make it real. So our idea of this kind of project is we have to improve, we have to reduce the cost of the technology, because the fix, we have already reduced the cost. It starts to be a competitive solution, but not for the floating. And this is something that the research and development has to consider as a priority. So this kind of project that we are proposing, we will be able to test different platforms. We will test platform in the Mediterranean Sea. It is not the same, the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. We will produce new technologies that will be adapted and designed especially for the Mediterranean. Also, another important issue is that we have to take into account that at this moment there is no offshore wind farm in the Mediterranean Sea, not fixed, not floating, so we have to work on it. It will be, the first project will start operating next year, and is a prototype in France, but we have quite, we think that we have quite a lot of work in different issues related to the technology of the platform, also of the operating and maintenance issue. We have to develop, we have to invest in the development of ropes and other technologies, because we have to reduce the capex of this project, but of course we have to reduce the OPEX. So it is, I think that there are quite a lot of research lines that we are proposing for the project that are really important to develop the technology and to make a commercial project in the future, and particularly in the Mediterranean Sea, that it is, I think it's different than the North Sea and the Atlantic Sea. So we have to focus on the problems that the Mediterranean Sea had that are not the same that in other parts of the world.
Okay, so more collaboration among different agents in the Mediterranean area will help to achieve that for sure. So you have RTOs from Italy, France, Greece, of course Spain here, so you can find good partners to find the solution here. So maybe there is one quick question from the audience to our speakers, otherwise oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that our third panelist, Mr. Boshiar Zalan, has not been able to come with us because of the healthy issue. She is in the hospital, so we wish him a quick recovery, and of course our best and warm regards from Barcelona to Boshiar. So thank you very much. Now I invite you all to have lunch here and keep on doing that networking that was interrupted for the second session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Piotr.